telling you this video is gonna bang, because I can't stop thinking about the Avengers versus the X-Men, and we've got a lot of rumors recently about how that's gonna play out in Doomsday, but we also have reports that this is gonna be in the Mutant Saga, and after Avengers Secret Wars in a newly rebooted MCU, some elements from the Avengers versus X-Men stuff in Doomsday and Secret Wars will play in to an even larger conflict between the Avengers and the X-Men in that rebooted MCU. Holy shit, that's even hard to like just get out in a sentence. Yeah, the shit's a little confusing. So in this video, I'm gonna explain it all, and it's actually really dope. Here's the cool thing, right? So just chill, cool your jets. This is actually awesome, and I want to explain a couple of quotes from Feige over the last year and some stuff that insiders are saying, and I'm going to explain to you how the X-Men and the mutants are about to be set up. And the more I thought about this, the more it took me to some really cool fan theories, speculative ideas, and whatnot, so I'll get there at the end of the video. Okay, so about 10 months ago, when talking about Deadpool and Wolverine, Kevin Feige had a lot of interesting quotes, but I want to focus on this one right here. He said, also, the after is clearly, now that we have characters from the X-Men world, the mutants, we haven't had access to before. This is the beginning of that. And every movie post Deadpool and Wolverine will be the mutant era coming into the MCU. And then at the end of last year, Kevin appeared at a big Comic-Con and he doubled down on this, saying, I think you will see that continues in our next few movies with some X-Men players that you might recognize. Right after that, the whole story of Secret Wars really leads us into a new age of mutants and the X-Men. Again, it's one of those dreams come true. We finally have the X-Men back. Okay, so those comments are really crazy, but they get even wilder when you combine them with what a lot of insiders have been saying. One of those insiders is Alex Perez, who has been teasing Avengers vs. X-Men for a long time. In fact, Alex had teased Avengers vs. X-Men for Avengers 5 so heavily that last year, when the reveal happened at San Diego Comic-Con, I was anticipating Avengers vs. X-Men, not Avengers Doomsday. And by the way, with the more recent leaks, which I've been making videos on, they're currently filming a big fight between the Avengers and the X-Men for Doomsday, like right now. Yeah, it's seeming like Alex was correct. Like, the movie's called Doomsday, and Doom will probably have some crazy flip at the end of the film, but it really does seem like it's an Avengers versus X-Men conflict that's going to drive that movie's plot. And one of the other things that Alex was reporting alongside this whole Avengers versus X-Men thing was that elements of Avengers vs. X-Men from these Avengers movies, Secret Wars and Doomsday, will carry into the Mutant Saga. They will be paid off in the Mutant Saga when there's a bigger Avengers vs. X-Men conflict. And here's the thing you got to keep in mind. Avengers vs. X-Men is an awesome title. It was an awesome title for a comic book, which, by the way, that comic book wasn't even that great. It was like fine, but it was also really fun, and there was cool fighting between the Avengers and the X-Men, and the fucking Phoenix Force was there. Oh! But my point is, Avengers vs. X-Men, dude, that just slaps. Like, that just instantly has aura, you know, whatever the fucking kids say. People like that shit. So Avengers vs. X-Men, when they make that movie, it's gonna pop off. That's an incredible title. But they're not making Avengers 5, Avengers vs. X-Men. They're calling it Doomsday because the Doom element is now a part of that story. And so Marvel is sitting on a friggin' gold mine with Avengers vs. X-Men. And if the next saga is a Mutant Saga, one would understand if they built that towards a big conflict with the Avengers and then made their Avengers vs. X-Men movie. Okay, so now you understand all the pieces at play, but there's a big problem here, dude. And the problem all has to do with Secret Wars and the nature of the coming MCU reboot. And I have to explain it all, so it's gonna be a second here. Some of you were like, yeah, I know all about that, Josh. Well, just hold on, man, because there's like grandmas and aunts and uncles and people that stumbled into the video on a bus somewhere because they're trapped and they're probably in a tough situation. Maybe they're down on their luck, and I don't know where I'm going with this. So here's the deal, right? We know right now Marvel is planning a soft reboot after Secret Wars. And we say soft reboot because the word is most of the canon and the stories of the characters from the Infinity Saga and even the Multiverse Saga will be kept intact within this new canon. The only big differences that we've heard of is that you'll now have the Fantastic Four in this universe as opposed to the one that they have in their upcoming movie. So no more Jetsons shit. And apparently the X-Men are also going to be in this universe now too. And it's kind of unclear what they're doing with the X-Men. It seems like they might have always existed within the canon. we're gonna get there in a second. But you have to understand that the reason this universe can even be rebooted is because it's going to be destroyed at the end of Doomsday. And goddamn, this is really complicated. This is crazy. I'm sure the grandmas and the aunts and the uncles and that dude on the bus are having a tough time following this shit, but just hold on. So Doomsday is going to be Doom trying to recreate a new universe, or like his old universe. It's already too complicated. Okay, Dr. Doom at the end of Doomsday is going to destroy all of the universes in the multiverse, and he's going to create a new singular universe. The reason he's doing this is because if there's a multiverse, it's always going to end in a multiversal war. So he's kind of like agreeing with the Kang dude, like the He Who Remained guy a little bit there. He doesn't want incursions, and he wants everybody to be able to just exist and live in peace. So he's going to create a new universe. And so at the end of Doomsday, it's very likely the case that 616 is either altered in some really crazy ways, or it is literally destroyed. And then we'll have the creation of Doom's new universe, which we think will look like that concept art we saw a couple of months ago. You know, the shit where Dr. Doom's all in white, he's on a throne, you got Stephen Strange next to him. It seems to mirror the Game of Thrones Middle Ages aesthetic that we had in the Jonathan Hickman battle world. So, just so you're not lost, there's going to be a Doomsday, Doom's going to destroy everything, then he's going to rebuild a singular universe, and somehow, some way, this is likely to be reset at the end of Secret Wars, because I don't think Doom's gonna win that in that one. So after Doom loses in Secret Wars, we're probably gonna see the multiverse recreated. But here's the thing, 616 will be altered, and 616 is supposed to have the Fantastic Four and the X-Men in that universe. Okay, so now you understand how this soft reboot is supposed to work. Here's the thing though, some insiders claim that the events of Secret Wars will mostly be completely forgotten. Like, most of the people that we pick back up with after Secret Wars in the 616 universe, they're not going to remember Doom's universe. Like, all of that's going to go away. And so now do you see the problem? The problem is, how can elements from the next two Avengers movies be setting up an Avengers vs X-Men conflict in the rebooted MCU if nothing from Doom's universe is remembered? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not going to make sense. How could that happen? Well, this is where it gets kind of cool, to be honest with you. I think the events of Doomsday will be remembered.
What did he say?
Now, in order to fully explain what I'm talking about here, I got to go into the rumors and the leaks for the Doomsday film. Again, there's just so many rumors out there that Avengers vs X-Men conflict is happening in this film. That is that set that's out there. There's Sentinels on that set. Magneto versus Dr. Doom is a rumored fight that's happening. Apparently Red Hulk and the Hulks are there fighting against the X-Men. We had Alan Cummings, the guy that's literally the actor for Nightcrawler, talking about how he's fighting Reed Richards. You have other insiders saying that yes, Reed Richards will be joining up with the 616 Avengers, which is set up in the post-credit scene of the Thunderbolts movie. There's a lot of signs that Avengers vs X-Men is a big part of the plot for Doomsday. And recently, we've had a couple insiders come forward to explain what is going on here. Apparently, this is all Dr. Doom. Apparently, Dr. Doom is pulling all of these strings and, you know, doing all these machinations to try to get the Avengers to fight against the X-Men. But his ultimate goal is to actually weaken both factions so that then he can do what he really wants to do, and that's apparently grab up these reality warping, crazy, powerful beings. Like, maybe it's Wanda, maybe it's Franklin Richards, maybe it's Jean Grey Phoenix Force, or maybe it's all of them. And then if Doom gets all of those beings, that is then the power that he's going to use to create his universe. And I have actually more to say about this in the context of like 616 after Secret Wars, but hold on just a second, because I actually do think there's another thing that's going to happen, because I do think the X-Men will have a role to play in this new universe. Whatever Doom is doing with like Battle World, or maybe it's a Battle World universe with various planets, I personally believe the mutants will be a big part of that, because it's the perfect way for Marvel Studios to continue using some of the Fox X-Men in a really cool sort of Game of Thrones way. Like, dude, that's gonna be awesome. And think of it like this: Doomsday comes in, you get the Fox X-Men, they're in their blue and gold, it feels so traditional. You're like, dude, the Fox X-Men have never been this cool. This is awesome. Well, then that nostalgia goes right into Secret Wars, where then you see a lot of those same actors, different costumes, but the same character recontextualized within Battle World. That's like the whole point of the Battle World concept. That's why it's so fun. So it's working on that level, like for the fans, for the fan service, and for a beautiful send-off to these X-Men actors. But I do think there will be characters that remember the events of Secret Wars, like maybe Doctor Doom. If Doctor Doom survives Secret Wars, he could be one of the characters that remembers the events of Secret Wars, which literally happened in the comics. After Hickman's Secret Wars, Doom does remember those events. He remembers being a god. He remembers his battle with Reed. He remembers that Reed fixed his face. So that could be going on. But I think maybe you got a Doctor Strange that could also remember the events of Secret Wars. Maybe Reed Richards remembers the events of Secret Wars. And what I'm saying here is, if the mutants have some role, like, dude, I was kind of thinking they do a version of like Planet X where Apocalypse rules this planet and he's just brutal as hell, right? It would be kind of cool if some of that stuff was then remembered by maybe just a couple of characters in the soft reboot. Okay, but now let's go back to Doomsday itself, right? I was saying that I think the events of that movie will be remembered by everybody in the 616. And what I mean is, like, right before the destruction of their universe, there will be this big fight between a different universe and a bunch of mutants. And I think a lot of that would be televised, right? Like, that'd be the craziest thing ever. It'd be like Doomsday. Wait a minute, say that again? And so, yeah, they would be filming it. Everybody would be aware. And maybe a lot of the public and a lot of the government officials, including Thunderbolt Ross, would fight against the freaking mutants and would understand how crazy powerful the mutants are. And I think particularly if Chris Claremont was not just talking out of his ass and Famke Jenkins will be Phoenix in these upcoming movies, then imagine the Red Hulk has an experience fighting against the Phoenix Force. And then in a soft rebooted universe, we realize there's a Phoenix Force and a Jean Grey in our universe as well. Like, dude, he's gonna be so pissed and he's gonna want to destroy the mutants. And that's what I think they're gonna do. I think they're gonna have this big, crazy battle take place in Doomsday, and a lot of people will be aware of it. They will not be aware of what happens after that. To them, it'll just be like that battle ended and everything went back to normal. But then these mutants start popping up and they'll remember the mutants from that other reality and how dangerous that is. That's going to set up the conflict between humanity and mutant kind. Because one of the things that's really important for the X-Men is that they're fighting to save a world that hates them. And it's just like, wow, how are you going to do that with these Avengers movies, and then you're soft rebooting, and I think we figured it out in this video. So there you have it, guys. Super nerdy, super sweaty explanation of how the next two Avengers films are likely to set up Avengers vs X-Men as a literal, actual dope movie in the Mutant Saga. And yeah, it's a little confusing. I think it'll work, though. I think this could actually be dope. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next choked. I coughed on that. I'm gonna leave it in the next video.